This video recreates one of the demos we do in class for our Project 5 interactive PDF project. We are currently in InDesign, which is where you will execute that project. And the file that's in front of you is just 4 pages. So it's basically the same as the example, except I lopped off pages 1 and 6. So what I want to show you in here is how to create a new color swatch, because the swatches they give you in InDesign are limited and rather ugly. I'm going to show you how to create and apply master pages. And then I will also show you how to create and apply styles, specifically character styles, paragraph styles, and then also object styles. Master pages and styles are a great time saver, and the more pages in your document, the more you're going to want to use styles and master pages. So let's get started by creating a new color swatch. The pages you see in here are filled with the only color in the world I don't like, and that is baby blue.
No!
I want to change that. So to get started with that, let's go ahead and create a new color swatch. You'll notice these icons here. You may not have those in your doc over here. That's because I have opened those in addition to what normally shows up in the Essentials workspace. Anytime you see a window that I'm using that you don't have, then you need to come up to the window menu here and just pull down and find it and open it. And then you can just simply drag it to your doc and it will attach there. But I want to go to these swatches right here. And then down here at the bottom, you are going to see this little icon, the ubiquitous Adobe icon for something new. In this case, it's a new swatch. I'm going to click on this. It basically just makes a copy of an existing color that's already in the palette. Then once that is there, you can double click on it and it will open up this window. Now, because this is an interactive PDF, meaning it is meant to be used on screen, the first thing we're going to do is change the color mode from CMYK, which is printing color, and change that to RGB. The color type is I want this to be a spot color, meaning that it will just appear as a solid color in different spots in your layout. So you can see over here, these subheads are blue, this box is blue. That is when you would typically use a spot color. The swatch name, let's go ahead and call this medium gray. And finally, we need to change what the color is, because right now it's still this horrendous kind of cyan color. I am going to type in 3 RGB numbers. Remember, RGB stands for red, green, blue. Red is going to be 169. Green is going to be 159. And then blue is 156. And there is our gray. It's a very warm gray. It's a very nice gray.
Oh, baby.
So I'm going to click OK. Now nothing changes except the swatch within here because we haven't applied that anywhere. So what I would like to do initially is change the color of this box. So I'm just going to click on that. And then I can go over here to my Properties window. Click on that, and here is my medium gray showing right there. Also, you'll notice that I applied what's called a screen tint to that blue box, meaning that it has been converted into dots to give the illusion of printing at a lighter color. So 20% just means 20% value. So I'm going to leave that alone. I just want to change that to the gray, click on it, and boom, that is done. Okay, now I also have this link down here, and so I want to change that to be a solid gray. So I'm going to get my type tool, drag over that little piece of type, and change the fill to medium gray. And that's all there is to adding a new swatch and then, of course, applying it. So we'll change it in other places as we go through this demo today. So now let's create some master pages. Master pages are great because it means that you can go in and put elements on these master pages that will recur on many pages throughout your document. So you create it once as a master page, then you can just simply drag it to the regular page and apply it. So if you have, say, page heads on a lot of the pages here, you can make that be on the master page, and it will apply all the way through the book in which you apply those pages. And so let's go ahead and get started with that. So over in the Pages window here, here are the regular pages, and then up above it is an A master page. So the A master has already been applied to the 4 created pages. InDesign does that automatically. Whatever settings you create when you create a new document, it automatically creates a master with those settings and automatically applies to all of your pages. Now what we want to do is keep this master for this first page here, but we want to change it on the other 3. So we're actually going to make a couple of new masters that are going to be similar to each other. Let's get started with the B master. So I'm going to go over here to the menu for the Pages window, and I'm going to drop this menu, which is out of your screen, unfortunately. But one of the choices is New Master, which is about the 6th one down. So I'm going to choose that, and then this window comes up. So most everything is going to be just fine for this. This is going to be a B master, that's fine. It's not going to be based on any other master, so none is good. I do want it to be 2 pages, in other words, a spread. Letter size page, and then the orientation should be vertical. So that's all good. I'm just going to click OK. That will then create a new B master up here, and we are currently inside of that B master. If you're ever not sure where you are, you can always look at the lower left corner and it will tell you what pages you are currently on. I want to first change the columns and the margins. So I'm going to go to Layout up here, and I'm going to pull down to Margins and Columns. If this little window opens up here, just kind of ignore it. It will go away in a minute. I want to make sure my margins are not linked, and then I am going to set these to be 6 picas on the top, 2.6 picas on the bottom, and then on the inside I would like that to be 9 picas. And then the outside 9 picas. So what it did was it based this on the A master, even though I told it not to. But what are you going to do? InDesign has a mind of its own.
Yes, dear.
And I'm going to make the number of columns be just 2, and then the gutter is going to be 1 pica 6, which is 1/4 of an inch, and that really should be about the minimum column gutter you should have. And then I'm going to click OK. And by the way, as I'm setting this up, I want to be very clear that I don't want you to use these example layouts and just take out my stuff and put in yours. I don't want you to copy what I did. I want you to create something that is totally yours. So you can certainly be inspired by the greatness which is before you. Thank you. But I want you to create your own layout and make your own decisions and really kind of maybe follow some of the basic guidelines and rules I give you, but apply them in your own way. So back to the teaching part of this video as opposed to the lecture part, which I just finished. Thank you.
Whatever.
Next thing I want to do is I want to put a gray background on these pages. So I'm going to just go to the rectangle tool here, and I'm not going to do it over both pages because I don't want a big gray box. I want a gray box that fills each page. So I'm going to just go up and drag this from the top left to the lower right corner for that first page. I am then going to go to my Properties window, and I'm going to make sure that that is the right size. Now I'm currently working in picas, and I know that 51 by 66 picas is a letter size page, so I drew that just the right size. I'm also seeing that it's perfectly aligned to the X and Y coordinates. So in other words, I nailed it. I don't have to change it. So I'm going to go to the fill box now, and I'm going to click on medium gray, and that's too dark, so I'm going to change this to be 20%. There. So that one is done. Now I could go in and I could just draw another box, but wouldn't it be nicer if I just was able to copy this?
Yeah.
Well, I can. So I'm going to click, hold, and I'm going to hold down the Option key to drag a copy, and I'm going to hold down the Shift key to drag my copy in a perfectly straight line. And just wait for it to snap right into position. let go of the mouse first, then the buttons, and now I have a gray box covering each page. So the only thing I want to do to this is I would like to add a title to this page. I actually have a title, but it's on a regular page. So I'm going to go get that. So I'm just going to double click on page 3 right here. Click on that title, and instead of copy this, I'm going to cut it. So these are all under the edit menu, but I'm just going to go Command or Control X, cut that out, and then I'm going to go back to my master page. Let me just recenter that. And then I want to paste this into the same position. So there are keystrokes for this, but let me show you how to get to it here. So I want to go to Edit and then Paste in Place, and it will put it in exactly the same position it was on the page which I copied it from or cut it from. And that's it for now. I will come back and change the styling of this a little bit later. So let me show you how to apply a B master. So I'm going to go back to page 3 here. And what I want to happen is I want page 3 here to be that gray background color. And then on pages 4 and 5, I want page 4 to be the gray background color, but page 5 to be the white color. So we'll get back to that in a minute. So I'm going to go up here and then find my B master, the right hand page. Make sure you drag from the right side, and I'm going to pull this and apply it to page 3. Boom. Then I can take the left hand page of the B master and pull that down to page 4. And so now you'll see that I have very nicely applied both of those masters to each of those 2 pages, but it leaves the other 2 pages alone. Okay, so now I want to make the same thing, but with a white background. And so this is kind of nice trick. If I just mark the B master here, and then I right-click on this, and again, it's getting cut off, but this very top item says Duplicate Master Spread B Master. I'm going to choose that, and it automatically just creates something called C Master that has all of the same settings. Exactly what I want. What I want to do is just get rid of the gray backgrounds on each of these. Boom. So now same format. These are just on a white background instead of a gray. And then I am going to apply those to the regular pages. So I'm going to click on page 5, which is really the only place I need to apply that, and pull down the right-hand page from the C Master onto page 5. And there we go. So obviously we need to do some cleanup on these pages. The images aren't sized correctly and the type isn't formatted. So we'll get to that next. But you'll notice that we easily applied different masters to each pages, and you do the work once and then it just kind of cascades through your document. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So before we can apply our styles, we need to do a little bit of cleanup, not on these pages, but on pages 3 and 4. And so these images have just been kind of placed in there. They haven't really been sized to the correct size, and the type isn't in 2 columns as we would like it. Let's go ahead and fix that. So just as a little refresher here, I'm going to click on this poster image right here. And remember, there's 2 ways you can do this. You can either hold 2 keys, the Command and Shift key, and that will resize the containing frame around the picture and the picture itself in proportion and size both of them together at the same time. You can also come down here to the free transform tool and just choose that, and that will do the same thing. But again, hold the Shift key to keep it in proportion. So I'm just going to do the hold 2 key method. So I'm holding Command or Control and the Shift key, and then I'm going to drag from one of the corner handles and just pull that down. What I want this to do is be the same width as those 2 columns. And now let's pull it up from this side. You'll notice if I click and hold and wait, it will let me preview it. If I just drag it and move, it will still resize, but it won't show it to me. So I'm going to just pull this up to the top here. And those guides will just help it kind of snap into position there. Beautiful. So now let's go ahead and size these 2 guys. So I know that this page 1 showing this layout is in proportion. So I'm just going to drag that to the top of the columns there. But this one, the spread, needs to be resized. So again, same thing, Control or Command and the Shift key, and just resize that to be the width of the two columns. Looks good. Now remember the trick I told you on project 3, whereas if you want to see it without all these boxes, all you got to do is make sure the type tool isn't selected, and then you can just hit the W key, and that will toggle on and off all of those guides, and it gives you a chance to see what's going on. Now when I turn those off, I notice that there is a blue line around my layouts here, and I really don't like that. So I'm going to shift click and mark both of those boxes. Come back to the property window and go ahead and just change the stroke to be medium gray, and I think I'll do 50% just so it isn't so dark. And so there, another instance of baby blue gone. Love it. All right, so next, my columns of type aren't working the way they should. So I'm going to hit my W key again, and what I'm going to do is just drag these handles over and snap it to that first column. Now obviously all of that text isn't going to fit in this little box, so you'll notice there's a little plus right here telling me that I have what's called overflow text. So if I click on that little plus sign, I can just click over here and it will fill in that column with the rest of the text. And then if you want to make sure it's lined up, you can just pull it away, and you'll notice at a certain point you get a little visual clue. That little green line there is telling me that that is going to be lined up with the other column just perfectly. All right, so now I need to do the same thing for this type. Click on the plus, and then drop in the second column of type. All of our elements are in basically the right place. Now we need to get them styled the correct way. I have come back here into the B master page because what I want to do is I want to start setting the style for all of the type in the document. And the first thing I want to set is the style for the heads on each one of the pages that show a project. So that's why I didn't make copies of this earlier, because I want to style it first and then make a copy of it and put it on the other page over here. So style. So I'm going to come over here, and in fact let me just show you where this stuff is. So I'm going to go down to Window, pull down to Styles, and I already have Character Styles and Paragraph Styles open. I'm going to go ahead and open up the Object Styles because I'll be needing that in a minute. And then I'll just pull this over here and put it underneath the character and paragraph styles. So I'm going to open up the character styles, and you'll notice that in here it says none, and that's currently what this is set to. It has no styles applied to it, but it does have one called page titles. Now I've already set this up, and I'll show you how to set up a new one of these in just a minute. But let me just go inside of here. So I'm going to double click on this, and you'll see it already changed up here that it has basic character formats of Avenir Next, Demi-Bold, 11.5 point. No leading because it's just a single line. You'll also notice that the color down here has been set to that blue. So I want to go ahead and change that to gray. Choose that. I can even click on the preview button down here. So I can see what that looks like. Beautiful. And then I can click OK. You can see how a style in this case is really great, because every time there would have been an instance of this throughout the document, if I changed it on this one place, it's going to change it in all of them. Basically, anywhere that style is applied, it will update that style wherever it is applied. So this is great. I actually just want to change this a little bit though. I don't want it to all be gray. I'm going to make this little bar right here be white. And then I'm going to make the name of the project here be black. Okay, everything is beautiful. So now that I have this styled the way I want this to page to have a title as well. So I'm going to mark that, and again do the same drag a copy trick. Click, press down the Option and Shift keys, and pull this over to the left and wait for the Smart Guides to tell me it is lined up right there. And boom. And then I'm actually going to copy this one here because I now want to go to the C master page. And I want to not have to go through that styling again, so I'm just going to paste this in here. I'm using keystrokes this time. Paste and place under the Edit menu. And then this is all well and good, except my little bar has gone away because that little bar was white. So I'm going to mark that and then change it to medium gray 20%. And then finally, make a copy of this for the other page. So titles on all the master pages have been set up. Now let's go back and see how they applied to the pages over here. So you'll see, look at that. So that master page has allowed this to automatically update. And if I pull down here, you'll see the same thing on these pages. Now, obviously, there's an elephant in the room here. This title is correct, but these titles are not. So how does that work?
I don't want to know.
Well, obviously, we can't allow for different titles in one master, but what you can do is you can overwrite the master and keep all of the styling work that you've done. And so I'm going to hold down these two magical keys again, Command or Control, and the Shift key, and I'm going to click on this head right here. And you'll notice that I am able to select that. And so if I just click on a master item, you'll notice I can't select it once I'm in a regular page. But by holding that Command and Shift key, it allows me to override that and say, okay, I don't want that to be a master item anymore. I want to modify it. And so all I want to do here is just change the number and that this is a B movie poster as opposed to the type poster. Okay, so this one needs to change too. So again, I'm going to hold Command and Shift, click on this, and then I can change this to Project 3, multi-page layout. Next thing up, I want to go back up to page 2 because I still have some unsightly blue left in my layout. So if I click in here and then I go to paragraph style, so character style is basically for just like a headline or something, just like a single line of text is when it's best. Paragraph style is when you're dealing with a block of copy. Gives you a lot more control. And so that's why this has been set up as a paragraph style. And you'll notice when I click in here that it shows me that character or that paragraph style is called subhead bold. So what I want to do is I want to change the weight of this, make it a little heavier, and I want to make it be gray. So I'm going to double click on this item. This brings me into paragraph style, so you'll see there's a whole lot more options here for dealing with paragraphs, but we just need a couple. So I'm going to go to basic character formats, and I'm going to change this to bold. Click on preview. Yep, that looks pretty good. And then I need to come down to character color, which is down here, and change that to gray. Boom. So just like that, that last little bit of blue is gone. Oh wait, I still have a blue outline on these boxes, which is very annoying. So let me change that. And again, I'll do 50% on that. And let's hit the W to get a little preview. Ah, much better. So, okay, next thing up I want to do is to create a new character style for these headlines, because right now these are in Georgia, and I want them to be in that Avenir next. So I'm going to go back here to Character Styles, open that window, and click on the new symbol to create a new style. I'm going to double click on that to open, and I'm going to just call this heads. And then I want to go ahead and set up some basic parameters. So the character formats, the font family is going to be Avenir Next. The style is going to be medium. The size, it's big, it's going to be 90 point. And leading is not necessary. Then I'm going to set the color to be gray and the tint to be 20%. And then it's confused about whether it has a stroke or not, so I'm going to remove the confusion and say I do not want a stroke on that. And remember, you hardly ever will want a stroke on your type. It's not a good idea. And then I'm going to click OK. Now nothing changed because I haven't applied it yet, but now I can come click on this student type over here and just click on heads and boom. And this brings up another issue, is my type is exactly the same color as this box here, 20% gray. I don't really want my type to be darker than that, but obviously you can't read it here. So some of those blending modes that we learned about in Photoshop, well, guess what? They are also in InDesign as well as Illustrator, and so we can access those here. If I go to the FX box, you'll notice that I have the ability to change the blending mode and the opacity of the type. And so I just want to change this from normal to multiply, meaning it will kind of multiply the two layers together. And you'll see that I get that very nice effect that I really like. And then I can just kind of pull this into position wherever I want it. And that's looking pretty good right there. Now what I can do is I can create what's called an object style. So I'm going to go down here to my object box, and I'm going to create a new style. And I'm just going to call this multiply. And what I want to do is, I don't need to worry about any of this stuff here, just effects for object. And so what I want to do is make sure transparency is marked, and then click on transparency, and then that gives me access to this information. So right now the mode has been set to multiply, the opacity is 100%, both of those things are what I want. And by the way, the reason it automatically set that was because I had this marked when I created the new object style. So I'm going to click OK. That's now called multiply. And what I can do now is I can click on this, I can go ahead and click on multiply, and then I can go to the character style and click on heads, and son of a gun, all those things are currently applied. So I will go ahead and apply the other ones when we are off camera, but let me show you one more thing, and that is these arrows are the last remaining object of discontent. So now, unlike baby blue, I like red very much, but it doesn't really go with my layout. Now these arrows I created in Illustrator, so I can't change them here in InDesign. I need to go back to the original file. So here's kind of a groovy trick. I'm going to right-click on this arrow graphic. Towards the bottom, you will see is Edit Original. And so what that means is it will open up this object, this image, in the program in which it was created. So if it was made in Photoshop, it would open up Photoshop. But this was made in Illustrator, and so it opens it up in Illustrator. So now I got to do is just mark this, go to my fill area, and I already have that same gray here in Illustrator, so I'm just going to mark it. And then finally, I can just save this. And then go back to InDesign, and you'll notice that it automatically updates. Now it only did the left arrow because that's the left arrow graphic, so I need to do the right arrow too. And so Edit Original, and go through exactly the same process. And there we go. So it is updated there, and they have updated down in here as well. That concludes this demo video, so I hope this has helped. Please take advantage of the master pages and the styles. Obviously, you don't have to complete this, but it will help you complete it more quickly. It will help you be more consistent with how you apply your styles, and most importantly, it'll give you skills that you're probably going to use once you get beyond this class.